Well, I can tell you, we're going to take a dive into the historical records, legends, and myths from around the world, but particularly from the North American First Nations, which profoundly point to the biblical account. Now, this is Genesis Week. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to this episode of Genesis Week, the weekly program of creationary commentary and news, and on news, views and events pertaining to the origins controversy. Now, made possible by you, the supporters of Core Ottawa, Citizens for Origins Research and Education. Thank you so much for your support. Excellence in private broadcasting. This week, we set up our studios in a storage closet of all places behind the NUR reactor. If anybody knows where that is, wow, you're one of the very few and far between. So we can continue to bring you the information the anti-creationists don't want you to see or hear. So now, we continue to give glory to our Creator, the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, we here at Genesis Week believe that your brain was intelligently designed, and our Creator gave you your brain to use it. Remember, if you get lost in cyberspace, you could just punch in wazulu.com, that's Ian Juby, which will take you over to the YouTube channel, or you can head over to genesisweek.com. You can find us there as well. Or our Rumble channel. You've probably found us here. Rumble channel, and catch the past episodes of our live streams and full interviews with all of our guests. So I'm one of your hosts, El Vasho, here again with the notorious, let's call you notorious tonight, Ian Juby. How you doing now?
Notorious or infamous, one or the other. I'm doing grand. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic.
So who was that? Someone said, that was George. G'day from down under. All the way from down under. Thanks for joining us, George. Okay, Buzzbird. Mexico. Egads, we got, and from John Davis in Idaho, egads, we got everybody in the house tonight. All over the world.
So, you know what? It's December 20th, 2023. Many of you viewers will have caught the Core Ottawa podcast we recorded back in, I think it was June. Now, episodes number 5 and number 6, the tragic eradication of the Red Man and the Red Record. Now, both of those podcasts were plagued with technical issues. If you were part of it, if you tried to log on, you know all about what we're talking about. So, and we now have more information and new research project for which we need you, the viewers, and especially any First Nations people watching this to help out with what we're doing here today. So why don't we start with the overly racist titles of those podcasts, as well as title of this live show, The Red Record Revisited. The Washington Redskins, perfect example, even ditched the Redskins from their sports club name. Now, you're embracing it. Isn't that kind of racist and so on? You know all about the Redskins. If you haven't, do a little bit of Google search. You'll know what we're talking about. Ian, what do you think of this?
It's an interesting point about someone brought that up today. That's why I threw that into the script. Come on, you're being kind of racist there, aren't you? The red man and all that. Actually, it's not. Now, I very carefully chose the wording and the titles for this for multiple reasons. First of all, the red skin. This is not about skin color. This isn't even so much about race. It is partly, but it's not even so much about race. When you take a look at, for example, the negotiations that the North American Indians were having with the European settlers, when they were negotiating treaties and whatnot, they referred to themselves as the Red People. And it was only I think twice, maybe three times, that they referred to themselves as Redskins, whereas they mostly referred to the Europeans as white man. And that was just to differentiate between them, right? Again, this had almost nothing to do with skin color. When they're talking about the red man, this is actually historically and culturally important. So you were out in Nova Scotia last summer, Al.
I
Did you
was.
see that? Did you see that statue?
I didn't see the statue. No.
Oh,
Where
you didn't?
exactly is it located?
So it's right on the side of the highway, just outside of Truro, Nova Scotia.
No,
So
I
on the
didn't
high,
get to see it.
oh, okay, just on the highway just down to Halifax. So this is Glooscap, and Glooscap is the Micmac creation story. And the reason the red man is so important is because literally all over the world, even right down into Australia. I noticed we got some people in the joining us live from the land down under. Even over there, the Aboriginal cultures have creation stories, legends, and myths of the first created man, who was a man made from the red earth. So this is where the red man comes from. It had nothing to do with skin color. It has to do with their cultural belief is that the first created man was made from red earth. Now, this, of course, you can start to see the analogies and the similitudes to the biblical account right away, right? So when we take a look at the original Hebrew, the name Adam literally means red earth. And as we all know from the scriptures, God created Adam, the original man, from the dirt, the earth of the ground. But if you actually take a look at the root words, Adam, it literally means red or ruddy. And it's actually a staining of the red color. And so there's the root word, Adam, and that is where Adam got his name, was Adam. It was from the red soil, red earth. So when the First Nations people refer to themselves as the red man, it has nothing to do with race. It has to do with they believe the original man was created by their creator from red earth. So when you start looking into this in the scriptures, and you remember we talked about this on the live stream, red ochre,
We did. Yep.
which was it's a red earth, and it's a sacred thing to them. Red ochre is sacred to many of the First Nations tribes. This is also important because when we talked about the Red Record, which we're not going to have the time to get into this week, but the Red Record, the reason that information is so scarce, and in the First Nation stories that we discussed in the live streams and whatnot, and what we're going to bring up in the next few episodes, the next several episodes, for starting today, is these stories that we're going to get into are sacred. And so us white folk, we don't have access to these. So this is going to become very important in just a moment when we explain our next little research project here coming up, because we need First Nations people to be involved in this. Now, you and I had both talked about, our apparent Native ancestry, because didn't you say you had Native blood as well?
Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of research and speaking with some of my family. It looks like we are Métis,
Right.
and I have a cousin in particular who sits on a council who
Oh,
has all of our ancestry, and I'm starting to research it. But yeah, it looks like we are Métis.
gotcha. Yeah,
Hmm.
I've been struggling with trying to research my family's ancestry, and that's I won't go into that, but except I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's quite the task.
It is. It is because, and this actually kind of brings up an important point in this discussion, in that especially here in North America, not just Canada, people all around the world have heard about the residential schools in Canada and all
Hmm.
the horrors that happened. But it also happened in the States. And of course, let's not get into, what all happened with the Aztecs and the Europeans coming over there and whatnot. But the point I'm getting at, though, is that there was an active end game of trying to eradicate the red man, trying to eradicate the Indian. So they would force them to residential schools, force them to abandon their cultural, their cultural, what do you call that, rituals.
Yep.
Abandon the cultural rituals, abandon their language. They weren't allowed to speak their language. All their storytelling, which we're going to get into, which is a very important part of all this. They were forced to abandon all this, basically converting them into white man. I'm sorry, were you going to say something? Did I interrupt you?
No, I was just going to say, I recall I did a bit of research on it, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a complete eradication of anything that had to do with their culture and
Yes.
integrating them into the white man society.
Yes.
Hmm.
And please notice right off the bat, folks, even right here, just all we did was we looked at the red man. And already you can see the strong connection between their culture and their languages with the original biblical account. And it gets even wilder. I don't know if someone brought this up during the live stream. The Chief Riverwind down in the States. Did you remember this?
Yep.
Did you ever get a chance to watch that video?
No, I never watched a video.
Okay.
It was kind of on the list. I just haven't got to it.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
But I know you
So,
have.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
So if you get the chance, for all the viewers, Mr. Riverwind, blah, I can't even talk tonight. He is First Nations chief. He's a war chief down in the States, and his wife is also Native, and they travel all around. They do a lot of ministry with the First Nations people, and he was on John. I've forgotten his name right now. Anyway, there's the link there. Now you see TV, and they shared a fascinating story where they took a bunch of elders and chiefs and they went over to Israel. And with the permission of the Israeli council and government and all that, they brought their traditional drums and they were singing traditional native songs with the drums in their language. So this is really important. In their language, which was systematically, the American and Canadian governments were trying to systematically remove, bring to extinction, they were singing the ritualistic songs from their culture. And the Jews there at the Temple Wall, they were singing at the Wailing Wall. And the Jews that were there immediately started trying to shut them down, going, stop, stop. What are you doing? You can't sing those words. You are singing the words of the name of our Most High God. They are singing in their original language from North America. And
Pretty
the
amazing.
Jews, yeah, and the Jews are telling them to stop. You can't sing that. You can't do that here. This is the holy name for our Most High God. You can't even speak it, let alone sing it. And of course, part of the native culture is once you've started these songs, you can't stop. And so anyway, he shared the story. But again, the thing I want to call everybody's attention to here is notice that it involved the original culture and the original language. And notice the connections to now the Hebrew language and the Hebrew culture. Connections that you would not have known except that you know the First Nations language and culture, which they, of course, do. That's how they wound up there.
The The Complete Creation video series is just that, an exhaustive look at the science, philosophy, and theology behind the creation-evolution debate. In this 40-part series, Ian Juby walks you through the debate, starting with the philosophical premises and limitations of science. Then, the surprising history of evolutionary and deep-time beliefs. You then walk through the evidence for creation from biology, geology, physics, paleontology, and archaeology. Chances are, any questions you have about the creation-evolution debate is answered in this video library. The series is both entertaining and educational, and suitable for personal study or homeschoolers. This 40-part series is available on a 20-disc set in either standard definition DVD or high-definition Blu-ray, and is on sale now. Order your hard copies today online at our store at ianjuby.org. And one more thing, Ian, just before we move on, I want to talk about something real quick. So this past September, my family went down to Lamoureux Park in Cornwall, and they had, I think it was like September 23rd, they had a culture fest, Cornwall Culture Fest.
Oh,
It was eye-opening. So they had a lot of the native people dancing, singing, performing, doing some speeches and stuff. What was most intriguing, there was one particular group that got up on the stage, and it's an outdoor event. And in the young man's lecture or speaking, he was talking about their culture, their tribe, but it was amazing because in there, and I wish I would have recorded it. Maybe I'll try and find a video, but it was all praise to God and Jesus Christ, that their tribe was based on Christianity.
right.
Now, I can't recall the tribe name, but I will find it. I was just blown. I was taken back because I was not expecting it. It was my first real encounter with the native people and the connection between that and Christianity. And to me, it was just mind boggling. It was incredible.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Just one comment here I'm going to call up just before we move on. Buzzbird. That is false. No language in the Americas has any connection to Hebrew. Only Mormons make such a claim. Now, that's thank you for the comment. That's an interesting point. The catch is, I would contend, is then you have to come up with an answer for what exactly the Riverwinds and all these tribal elders experienced when they went over to Israel and they were just practicing their culture. It was the Jews that came up to them and said, this is our name for the Most High God. So I mean, take it for what it's worth. I mean, this was multiple people that went over there specifically to practice sing their tribal songs, practice their cultural drumming and their songs and their cultural practices. And it was the Jews that told them this. So I don't know, take it up with them, I guess. So anyway, okay, so if we go to the next slide. So this was from Laura Dieter, who is actually a counselor on the First Nations Reserve not far from here. She's been just a huge help to me over this past year as I've tried to gain insight into the First Nations culture, because I mean, I didn't grow up on the reserve. I wasn't born on the reserve. I have no idea what it's like, and I'm trying to understand it and get a better grasp so that I can incorporate it into my children's show, which we'll discuss later on. Anyway, she is a fantastic artist, and she threw this together in like one afternoon when I called her up. Do you remember this, Al?
I do.
Yeah, I called her up in a
What's the
panic,
story?
and yeah, I called her up and I'm like, hey, I need Nana Bojo, a drawing. Do you have anything? And she didn't, but she's like, no problem. I'll whip you up something. And she whipped this up, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, it
It was
really is.
perfect. So she's on Facebook, facebook.com, Laura Dieter Art. I'll have the links there as well. So this is mostly Algonquinian here in Ontario, but it's multiple First Nations cultures in North America, which have not only a story of a great flood that flooded the whole world, they routinely, many of them talk about a turtle. And it's very unusual. Why a turtle? In fact, you'll hear have you heard the term Turtle Island,
I
Al?
have. Yep.
So, Turtle Island. So, depending on the tribe, in fact, in the Algonquin tribes here and the Cree tribes, which are very closely related here in Ontario, you'll notice that the animals change in the stories. The stories have a lot of similarities, but the animals actually change from tribe to tribe. But one thing that is consistent across multiple tribes and multiple languages is the turtle. And some of those tribes believe the whole earth is Turtle Island, whereas some of the ones here in North America believe that North America is Turtle Island. But again, this consistency of the turtle. Why the turtle? It's very strange. And in fact, as you go around the globe, there's over 250 historical records, legends, and myths of a time of a great flood. Vishnu, the fish god, which of course lots of people have heard of, Vishnu, the fish god over in India, Vishnu is, when you start digging into it, this is the name of Noah. Vish is actually the word for what is now known as fish or poison, depending on the context and everything. But Nu is just a form, one of the many forms of spelling of the name of Noah. For example, Noah, it's also spelled Nu, Noah, Noe, No, Neo. Interestingly, if you take a look in other languages, so Hebrew is written, okay, right to left. Did I get that right from the camera?
I think so.
I think so, eh? Okay. Lost my monitor there. So right to left. So Hebrew is written right to left. English is written
right.
left to right. And many languages are written left to right. It's backwards from Hebrew. So what a friend of mine, who I still can't talk about this, unfortunately, this is still ongoing research, but he noticed a connection. It's like if someone encountered the name Noah written somewhere and they knew enough of Hebrew to be able to read the characters, or what's that? Hooked on phonics.
Hooked on phonics.
Yes, yeah. Did you ever do that? I never did it, but
No, I never did it.
no. So hooked on phonics. If they know enough about it, the name Noah gets reversed in other languages. So it's the same name, but in Greek it's Aeon, On, Oan. In other languages it's Oannes, Johann, Johann, Jan, John, Ian. Joanne, they've got the feminine versions: Joanne, Joanna, Hannah, Iona, Joan, Jan, Jane, Janet, Janice, and Jean. These are all the same name. They all mean the same thing: God's grace. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. So now when we come back to Vishnu, the fish god, because if you remember in the scriptures, after the Noah's family got off the ark, they all lived for hundreds of years after the flood. They outlived people who were born after the flood. And so they became revered as gods because they never died. All these people who were born after the flood are dying, dropping off like flies and dying. But the people who came off the ark were living ridiculously long lifespans. They never died. So they became deified in legend and myth and historical, legends, basically, mythology. And so Vishnu, the fish god, it's Noah, basically. So, for example, the etymology of the Hindi words Vishnu, for example, Vish, which now means poison, but it also meant water, and originally it meant water, then dirty water, then poison. Whereas today it also means common man. So after the flood, Noah gave rise to the whole new human race, the common man. So you see all these connections in the word Vish. And of course, Vish is where we get the word English word for fish. It's the same root word. But also notice words like poison, which in the French, the French word for fish is poisson. It's almost identical spelling, in fact. So you get all these connections between Vishnu, the fish god, who saw a worldwide flood. The mythology involves a worldwide flood where everybody was destroyed except for a scarce few who were saved on the back of a turtle. So there's the turtle again, way over in India. What's going on here? What is with this turtle? It'll come up in a second. I want to go over, first of all, the extent of these flood legends, because there's a lot of them. Last count I heard, it was over 250. I don't know what the count is. It's a lot.
Yeah, I think that's what I've heard, about 250, 275 or whatever.
Yeah, somewhere in that, eh? Yeah, okay. All right, we're going to call that a wrap for this week's show. Please join us again next week as we continue this fascinating discussion into legends, myths, and historical accounts from literally around the globe, particularly among the First Nations of North America, pointing to the veracity of the biblical account of creation, the flood, the Tower of Babel, and the dispersion of the peoples around the world. I will leave you for today with these words of warning and hope from our Creator, the Lord Jesus Christ, who said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me." We'll see you on the flip side.
You can send your comments, questions, hate mail, and letter bombs to us in a number of ways. You can email comments at genesisweek.com, or you can tweet at GenesisWeek, or leave a comment on CORE's Facebook page at CORE Ottawa, or leave a comment on the appropriate show available on either the Rumble channel, rumble.com/user/IanJuby, or on the YouTube channel, which you can easily find by going to wazulu.com, that's Ian, and that'll take you straight to the YouTube channel. But just remember, these shows are now recorded live, so you'll want to search out the show under the Live tab. We need your support to keep this program on the air, so please pray for us. And if you wish to financially support the program, Canadians can make a tax-deductible donation via PayPal online at ianjuby.org/donations, or you can mail a check written out to CORE, Canada North, Post Office Box 72075, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, K2K2P4. And thank you for your support.